Hi there, it's Brooks Hitsfield with GrazeCart, and in this video we're going to show you how to utilize your own custom web domain for your GrazeCart system. So this is a very important thing to do. We highly recommend all of our clients to utilize their own custom domain because obviously that builds brand awareness, but your own website domain is an asset for your business, meaning that no matter what website platform you're using, you can always take that domain with you, and all the traffic that you're starting to build and the SEO value that you build for that domain is an asset to your business that you can always take with you. So now obviously we're building GrazeCart to grow with your business, so hopefully that is never something that you have to participate in this from this point forward. But this, again, we know that this is the right way to set up a website, and it's actually part of the reason why we've built GrazeCart to be not just an online store, but a website as well, all in one platform, because that means you get to use one domain for the entire system, which means that you start to build more SEO value because all your pages, all your product pages, it's all on that single domain. If you're ever utilizing a system that requires you to use two separate domains, then basically you're splitting your efforts. You probably know what I'm talking about if you've ever been on a marketplace style shopping cart that gives you some generic app dot or marketplace dot your farm name, or that is not the ideal setup for your website because you're not building SEO value for your domain at that point. So now migrating your domain is a technical process, and it can even make me want to pull my hair out sometimes, and many times I have to revisit this. The good news is you do it once and then you're done. And you have two options for utilizing a domain with GrazeCart. One, you can set up your own custom domain on your own, and that's what this video is for. That's what the article's for. We have instructions down below where we'll show you how that whole process works. But if you don't have the time or technical skill sets to figure it out on your own, you can also sign up for a migration project to hire our team to do the entire setup for you. Basically, all you have to do is give us your login credentials to your domain provider and pick a date that you would like the domain to be migrated, and we'll make everything else happen, and you don't need to learn any of the geeky stuff. So those are your two options for you to choose, and again, that's what this video is for, as well as for the instructions for doing it on your own. Our developer Jake, who's on our development team, has recorded instructions for the entire process. So without further ado, I will let him go ahead and show you those instructions. One final important note though, if you do want to handle the migration on your own, is that we highly recommend you to do that during our support hours. That way, if you run into any hangups, you can contact our team with questions. You're going to need us to issue your domain and SSL certificate either way. So if you want to minimize the downtime and make sure that we're here if you run into any hangups, be sure to do that during our support hours. Those support hours will be listed below, and we're here and happy to help. So without any further ado, I'll let Jake take it away.
So in this video, we're going to go over connecting a custom domain to your GrazeCart site. So this assumes that you've already registered a domain name. If you haven't registered a domain name yet, you can do so at name.com or GoDaddy or different services like that. But this assumes that you've already done that, so we're going to skip that step. So the first thing you want to do is go to Settings and then go to Domain. So from this screen, the first step we'll do is enter in the domain we want to use. Now, if we wanted to, we could make this www.artisanvalleyfarms.com if that's the domain that we wanted to use. Now, these are actually two different domains. www is a subdomain, which a lot of people like to use that. It's kind of fairly common. You can also just use the root domain, which doesn't have a subdomain at all. This is actually what I prefer just because it's cleaner. Really, the choice is up to you. Just make sure that whichever one you choose, you stick with it and you're consistent, because that's your domain that you're going to use going forward. Of course, you can always change it later if you want to, but I really wouldn't recommend it. So once you've chosen the domain you want, just click Get Started. So this just starts the process then of setting up the domain. There's a couple more things you're going to have to do. And for this whole process, it can actually take anywhere from a few minutes to a few hours for it to complete. Just kind of depends on where you registered your domain and how fastly they can update those changes. So the next thing we want to do is edit our DNS records. Now these DNS records are basically what the domain uses to direct traffic to the proper destination. So when someone types in artisanvalleyfarms.com, it knows which server to point that to. And to do that, we use what's called an A record, which then points that to the IP address of the GrazeCart server. Now here we have a CNAME record, and what that does is it just points any subdomain, in this case www, to our root domain, just so that anyone trying to access our site at www.artisanvalleyfarms.com will still get directed to the same destination as if they had just typed in artisanvalleyfarms.com. Now if you want to, you can add as many subdomains as you want, but for this example, just as a basic rule of thumb, we're just going to do these two and stick with the www subdomain. So to do this, you're going to make these changes, add these records where your domain is hosted. So that really is most likely going to be where you registered the domain, although it doesn't necessarily have to be. But more than likely, let's say you registered your domain with GoDaddy, you would do this on GoDaddy's end. So for example, our domain was registered with name.com. So this is kind of what the backend looks like of name.com. So we come down here, we click on DNS records, and here's where we're going to add our records. So the first thing we're going to do is add an A record. Now if we go back, we can see that the type is A, the host is this @ symbol, which is basically just kind of saying it's the root, and then the value is the IP address. So we'll just copy this, and here we'll just put in the @ symbol for host, and the answer or value is going to be the IP address. So we'll add that. So next, we're going to add a CNAME record so we can get that www subdomain working. So we'll come here and we'll choose CNAME. For host, this is going to be the subdomain, so in our case it's going to be www, and then the answer is going to be, the answer is just going to be the root domain. So we'll do that and add that record. So once that's done, these changes usually can take anywhere from a couple minutes to maybe even a couple hours. I've seen it take over a day for these changes to actually propagate and show up. So it just kind of depends. Name.com is a service we really like because they're pretty fast, a lot faster than services like GoDaddy, which I found it can take a couple hours to change. So the next thing we want to do after we make these, add these A records, is we want to click this validate connection. And see, we get this error saying that your DNS records are not set up properly or the changes haven't updated yet. Double check them again and try in a few minutes. So what that basically means is that the records just, either we put the records in wrong or the changes, more likely the changes just haven't updated yet. So we'll wait a few minutes. I'll pause this video and then we'll come back and we'll try it again.
So I came back after a few minutes and tried it again. Everything worked that time because all our DNS records have been successfully updated. So we see the success message, your domain is successfully connected. You can now access your site at artisanvalleyfarms.com. So we click that and we can see we can now access our site at our new custom domain. We have the padlock icon that shows our SSL certificate was successfully installed. And that's basically it. Your custom domain is now connected and you're good to go. So hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching.